approve the agenda?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great. We'll kick off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And there's a flag right up here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a bit of a neighborhood meeting conflict tonight, so before district updates, we're going to hear a quick Green Spot Committee update on the Arbor Fest happening this month.
Great, quick announcement. Thanks, it's the last monthly area commission meeting before the festival happens. August 24th, here in Whetstone Park, but down the hill. That's a Saturday, 1 to 5 p.m. is Columbus Arbor Fest, a labor of love put together by our committee here at the area commission, the Go Green Spot. These look good on a refrigerator. If anybody wants some of these, I'll just pass these around. Yeah, come on out for really exciting event, kind of a first for our committee definitely, but also for the neighborhood. And then it's down the hill where a lot of things don't take place here at Whetstone. But we've finished up all of our sponsors. The booths are sold out. So now we're just finalizing the last details of the activities that are going to go on that day, including some civic events in the shelter house. The Park of Roses will be staffed in its perennial herb and backyard gardens. There'll also be a tour of the Park of Roses itself. And if you come at 2:30, you can hear some classical guitar from the little tower, the little spiral tower, if y'all have ever visited down there. So that should be nice. We'll have live music, food and fun. There's also a seedling center. Baby Tree will be giving away trees that are not just any trees that are sourced locally. They're oak trees, which is one of the best types of trees to plant. Native trees from a local nursery. So, also the nature hikes, science demonstrations in the Old Tangi and the Dina Brook Creek. Come on out, it's gonna be really fun. I didn't even mention the eco poetry or the Columbus Modern Dance performance. Please come on out, it's gonna be a great time and it's free for everyone. Everyone from Columbus is invited to attend. Thank you.
Any questions from the commissioners for Chair Kochi? Any questions from the public about Arbor Fest? Awesome, thanks so much for all your work on this event.
Yes, thank you.
And we will pivot to district updates, starting with Commissioner Moritz.
Mark Moritz, District 6. Only thing I have an update on, I communicated with Commissioner Crowell and Commissioner Dalton about the deer situation. We got complaints from residents about the deer. Commissioner Crowell shared documents with plans from Dublin and the city of Worthington about deer management plans and how to proceed. We think so the process is relatively complex and involved. We decided to first start with asking the representative of the city to ask for an update on where the city stands in terms of deer management. That's my update. As I missed anything.
Well said. You said my update also. That's pretty much what I worked on. Trying to go through. There's a tremendous amount of information about how deer management is done, how it gets initiated, the process and steps that you need to take in order to get to a wildlife management permit, which typically permits people, contractors, or city or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to hunt and kill deer, which is the least expensive and most effective way to control them. It's very complicated to get to that point, to actually get that permit, and it's something that the city has to do. It's not something that we can do as a commission. It's not DNR, Division of Wildlife's responsibility. It's the city that actually has to pass an ordinance making this a priority. And so we understand that in the past, the city has been approached about this issue, but and we know that the reaction was pretty negative from the city, but we don't know why, and so it would be nice to have an update about, where that's going. Anyway, that's it for me.
Thanks, Commissioner Colt. Commissioner Ivey.
Josh Highway, District 8, nothing to report.
Thank you. Brittany Bolden, District 5. Deer also in the district, coming up to people's houses to the point of front doors and windows. It's really weird. And I will note, we've had the mobile city council meetings out at Whetstone last summer, and I brought this up, and I feel like there was a little bit of shuffling between maybe talk to Department of Health about public health mitigation, maybe talk to public services. It feels like there's not necessarily one point of entry, so just echoing Commissioner Moritz and Commissioner Caldas, some guidance on how to purchase would be really helpful, so thank you. Two other items that are not specific to District 5. I did receive an update from Craig Murphy from the Department of Recs and Park about the Whetstone casting pond. Just a note that they found and some of you may have seen this online as well, they found the round goby fish, which is a highly invasive fish in the Whetstone pond, and they engaged with ODNR to manage the situation. They did a social media campaign to let the public know. It's being fenced off for the next few weeks or maybe a month or so. The pond will be refilled, but it will not be restocked in anticipation of renovating the pond next year. They would have preferred to do that now, but they need a variety of different permitting that's slowing it down. There are 2 planned projects starting near the pond, so the area will be very busy with contractors this week. Last week coming into this week, there was a water line replacement project near the pond that should be done in the next few weeks, and in the near term, they will also start the north field renovation, which they did discuss at the commission meeting last month, and that project will close the portion of the park for the next year. The bulk of the work will be completed this fall, however, they will need time to reestablish the new grass fields, and I do know that Green Spot has been in communication with Recs and Parks, so the timing of this and the festival, I think everything's been pretty well coordinated. The other note that I wanted to share is that I received a message from City Council's community engagement email address. I think this was during the outage, so I'm not sure which individual this came from. But regarding our capital budget submission that we did earlier this spring. So a quick note on request number 3, and I'm gonna toggle back and forth so that I can remind us all what request 3 was. We requested a fund of the design and construction of an Indianola Avenue shared use path to connect the existing bike network to communities to the north of Morse Road. We received the feedback, which this is from, I think Harrison might have sent this out to us. We really appreciate the feedback on capital budget requests, because I think one of the things we said was we feel like we don't hear the end of the loop, so thank you to the city for providing this information. Okay, please refer the request to the Department of Public Service, so I will steward that. Request number 2, Clintonville received UIRF to close sidewalk gaps, including Indianola from Cook to Weisheimer. And we have a question into city staff as to whether that project is scheduled. If it requires additional funds, we ask that this would be a priority location for closing sidewalk gaps. And the response was, we will refresh the crosswalks at Indianola and Weber, Indianola and North Broadway, Calumet and North Broadway, and Milton North Broadway. I don't know that these are in the order we submitted them. This is a different one we submitted. There is not an active corridor study on the portion of North High Street. We asked for a speed study in our top priority request. We'd love more information on that. It seems like an abrupt response.
That's why we requested it.
That's why we requested it, because there's not one. That's the problem. And then our 4th request, sorry, this is a little bit clunky. We requested safety evaluation of North Broadway intersections, including but not limited to Milton, High Street, Calumet, Indianola, as well as the Olentangy River and 71 North intersections. And the response was that there are 3 active studies projects that impact these intersections. West North Broadway and Olentangy River Road are part of the Link Us Northwest Corridor Study, which we're going to hear more from Link Us tonight, so this is timely. East North Broadway and Indianola will be resurfaced, and bike lanes will be added in 2026, which this is the first time hearing of that, so that's exciting news. And North Broadway east of I-71 is being evaluated for potential bike lanes. So wanted to make sure I read all that out loud so that we could all hear that, and I'll forward this out to the commissioners as well. I will follow traffic study since we have had pedestrian deaths, and I know that's a top priority for all commissioners.
And no response to priorities 4 and 5.
Nothing on the splash pad.
Or the raccoon approved.
Or the raccoon proof trash cans. That's all I have from District 5. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Lada.
Hi, Paul Lotta, District 1. The weekend before Arborfest is Crust Fest in South Pleasantville. Crust Food and Family, that's August 17th. It runs throughout the afternoon. Another thing I noticed, Old Tension High, where pedestrian Benjamin Weiss was killed in May by a car making a turn. He was in the crosswalk, I guess. There's now an advanced green pedestrian signal at that intersection. And what that means is that when you push the button and it comes time to cross High Street, the pedestrian light comes on, but all the other signals for the cars are on red. So it gives the pedestrian a chance to get out into the intersection before someone tries to make a right turn into them, or it's somewhat safer. But it only works if you push the button, and that's kind of a flaw. I think that pedestrian signal should come on anytime, regardless. Whenever the traffic light is green for cars, it should be walk for pedestrians as well. So often I see pedestrians confused, like at Como and High, they didn't push the button, so then when you try to go, High Street stopped, and so they finally make the decision to go. They're halfway across the street and the light turns green on High. So I think that's one thing that the High Street study should be able to help out too. That's all I have. I think that it should just happen automatically without having to push the button. That's it.
Commissioner Nutter.
Greg Nutter, District 2. I just have a couple updates. I know from on the West Weber location for Columbia Gas, I know that has been approved by the City Council as well as East Weber, I believe. As you all know, City Council also approved the zone-in portion this past week as well. That was one update. The other update is with the bike path. I noticed that there is a sign erected down by 315 and West North Broadway talking about enhancements for the bike path with a nice photograph that it will be completed fall of 2025. So you can see where the path is going to go down by the river. That's on the north side. On the south side, all I've seen is markers. So they are working on it, so it's progressing. We also have deer in District 2. I think there's been a picnic in my backyard eating hostas and stuff. So again, anything we can do, they even come up on our front porch practically. So I heard a noise the other day and I look out and here's this deer on my front porch. And I thought, eating my flowers that are on the front porch. So it must be getting really desperate. The other thing, I'm most hesitant to bring this up, but I know some District 2 on High Street, we've had two, maybe you can fill me in too as far as around about. There's been some vandalism as far as with businesses. We've had a problem with Harvest with the fire in the back, which again closed it for the second time. We've also had graffiti on the entrance for Lavash. So I don't know what's doing that. I'm really concerned about the destruction that we're having in Clintonville. All of a sudden, it didn't seem like we always had anything. But the graffiti's getting out of hand again. I don't know if those people that got caught are out of jail or whatever the case is, but I noticed there's a big increase of just graffiti everywhere. So I don't know if there's anything we can do with that. Those are my concerns. But, and as far as good neighbors, I guess I'm gonna have to recognize Harvest Pizza and Lavash for hanging in there and being a part of our neighborhood for as long as they have been. So I know Harvest is relatively new, but Lavash has been around for a while, and I appreciate their business and being Clintonville.
Thanks, Commissioner Nutter. Commissioner Lada.
Donnelly Osborne, District 3, a couple things. On Tuesday morning, 3:30 to 6:30 a.m. in District 1, part of 2, and most of 3, which is basically Olentangy Boulevard up to North Broadway, Railroad to River. We're spraying for mosquitoes because the West Nile virus was found in one of the traps. So that's Tuesday morning, 3:30 a.m. Getting calls and texts about used needles being found behind the AT&T building at Dunedin and Indianola. Then I've also been chatting with, some people from NCIL and, Craig Murphy from Rec and Parks regarding, the updates that Rec and Parks is doing, and then also, Field 4, because in that plan, baseball Field 4 is slated to be basketball courts. But then there's also a plan to redo Field 4 for baseball, so why are we redoing Field 4 if it's gonna be a basketball court? So we're trying to come together on that. Craig has asked that we hold on that because they're doing nothing with Field 4 this year while they're dealing with the casting pond and the soccer fields and everything else. So we're on hold. He's requesting some meeting time in February or March. He'll let us know closer to that date. But there is a survey out there right now from Rec and Parks. It's called Playbook Columbus. He's asking that the CAC get this out on our site and for residents to take the survey. I took it today. It takes about 15 minutes. It's www.playbookcolumbus.com. It asks you what parks you use, what services, what could be updated, everything about that. So I was all about pool, splash pads, all of that. So if these are things we want, I think this might be a place for the commissioners to respond to them, the public also.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. www.playbookcolumbus.com. You can do your comments there leave your comments through September 9th. Okay?
Can you email it to me?
Yes, I'll email it to you. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Commissioner Wyman.
Mike Wyman, District 7, nothing to report.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for your district updates. We should all have received the meeting minutes for July's meeting from Commissioner Morris. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review. Are any questions or comments for the commission?
I have one correction about the date for Crest Fest. I made a correction. It's on Wall Street.
Great. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of July's meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Commissioner Miller is not in today and did not submit, I meant to mention he has an excused absence at the top of the meeting. I apologize for that oversight. So there will not be a treasurer's update tonight, but we do have lots of representatives from the city, so we'll kick off with Officer Brown.
Alright, I do have a few, bullet points. I got the, Zone 4 Violent Crimes, summary, on, and our emails are down, so if you've been emailing us, and I saw you emailed me, I just got an email back yesterday.
Okay.
So, I'm just trying to get caught up. But on, July 15th at, 8:20, 1 a.m. at the, Giant Eagle on, 2801 North High Street, officers were dispatched there when an irate customer. Officer get there, Officer, Begat, was one of the first responding officers, to, approach this individual who was irate, and the suspect, struck him multiple times, with a closed fist, resulting in that individual being, arrested and charged with felonious assault on a police officer. We also had a felonious assault on July 20th, at 11:30 p.m. east of Tulane and Summit. The suspects was at a homeless camp. An argument ensued, resulting in the suspect shooting into a tent at the homeless camp. Missing the suspect, victim refused to prosecute. On July 23rd, we had a homeless individual found, seemed to be assaulted, multiple injuries. He couldn't remember the events. Assault report was taken, no witnesses or video of the event that has been recovered at this time. On July 28th, at 2169 North High Street, here a victim was on a scooter, one of those little motorized scooters. A suspect approached him, tackled him, knocked him off the scooter, took his phone and his driver's license. Officers went in and took a robbery report. The suspect was described as a male black, 25 years of age, 6 foot, 200 pounds, medium rated air. Let me see what else I got. Oh, working a noise complaint from a Airbnb on Glenmont right now, trying to get a hold of the city's licensing agency to see if they are licensed, verify they are licensed, working with the abatement team on that. We're going to start working strict enforcement around parking around Bishop Watterson High School. So residents there have the two hour limit parking signs around the school, around for the residents. When school starts back, I will go out, me personally, I will start marking cars, come back every couple of hours if they're still there. Probably want to give them notices first couple days, then I'm gonna start writing tickets. So we'll probably do that for 2 weeks. As far as the graffiti, there was a suspect in, I don't know if all the graffiti, but a large portion of the graffiti on 3 Precinct is coming from a suspect who was evicted from a residence by the landlord. He has since been writing pretty profane messages all around the city on people's buildings, on apartments, referring to that landlord. He has been identified, has not been arrested at this time, but he has been identified. And yes, I did get the email regarding the homeless camps over there behind the railroad and AT&T. Been in contact with CSX. They actually own the property that most of those camps are on. Some of them are creeping off of railroad property, and we're getting those remediated. But the ones that are on that railroad property have to be remediated by CSX police. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
Golf carts, do they have to be licensed?
Someone just asked me about that. I have no idea. I think they do. I think they are allowed to be on a street that's 25 miles or 35 miles or under. I have to be back with them.
I'd be interested too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I looked into this for a local club that I was involved with. They had a golf cart, and it actually requires license and registration and running lights, brake lights, just like a regular vehicle. Anytime it's on a public road.
Someone brought it up in our office today, and I don't know. So, but I have seen some around, actually outside of Columbus, in smaller municipalities. People taking them to the grocery store to smaller municipalities. You got a pool in your community. I see in my area, they taking kids to the pool, and I do see that they have a license plate on. So, but I will look into that for you.
I've got two close to my house, kind of in the general area. One has a plate, one doesn't, and they both like to drive around with babies on their laps behind the steering wheel. So I'm starting to get a little concerned about that.
I'll pass it on to Patrol.
Any questions from the public for Officer Brown?
I did take a new assignment. I'm going up to 1 precinct, so I've worked there most of my career. I'm very, very familiar with that precinct. So I'm here until a new officer gets up and running, gets on his feet, and he or she can fend for themselves up here, and I won't leave them hang out dry. Yes, sir.
There was a recent crash on North High Street where a speeding driver hit a pedestrian who was in a crosswalk crossing with the light. Is there any update on enforcement or changes to policing?
What crash was that?
This was at High Street in Olentangy.
I talked to the investigating officer in regards to that crash. He told me that speed was not a factor in that crash.
Okay.
Was that the fatality?
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to the actual investigator, and he told me specifically that speed was not a factor in that crash.
So was it running a red light?
He told me that speed was not a factor in that crash. And I can tell you this, it is still under investigation.
Okay. But do you anticipate there will be any changes to traffic enforcement in Columbus in the near future to discourage speeding, to encourage respect for pedestrians, that sort of change?
when we get more manpower, maybe, unfortunately, patrol is responding from run to run to run. So, you know, we do have a motorcycle unit that is working, speeding, complaints. So if you're seeing or having speeding issues in your neighborhood, I recommend filing a 311 complaint. All those complaints are forwarded to the traffic bureau.
Yeah.
If they're speeding complaints. In the motorcycle, because I know this for a fact, because I was a motorcycle officer, we get those reports. So that officer is responsible for going out and investigating that speeding. I can't tell you that he's going to catch somebody because a lot of times you may have a car, you may have very few cars on a street, and it's just not worth the resources for us to be out there. Unfortunately, we want to be on a street where we got a lot more traffic, where we're getting a lot more cars. So, but those officers, every one of those are followed up on and investigated. And there's a disposition on all those 311s. So if you're seeing that on a specific street, dial 311.
Okay. No further questions.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sure if you were here at the top of the meeting for the district updates, but I think when we talk about pedestrian safety, it's not just traffic enforcement, but it's also our planning and development processes. And Commissioner Lotta mentioned that there has been an enhanced signal at that intersection. Not that that's enough, and the signal does not sound like it's perfect because it still requires a human signaling rather than automatically. But this is a top priority for this body and something that we're trying to work with Department of Public Service on as well.
Now, as officers are rolling around, if I see somebody, I'm in a parked cruiser, if I'm seeing a traffic violation, I got lights and sirens, I can pull people over, and I do. And if it's worth writing a ticket.
I've seen a lot of people run red lights in front of parked cruisers and the parked cruisers do nothing.
Wasn't 344, I can tell you that. I can only speak on me. So.
Any other questions for Officer Brown? Thank you so much. We will miss having you at these meetings greatly. You're always a great wealth of information and really patient with us.
I appreciate it, thank you.
All right, I think we've got Department of Neighborhoods. Stacy, would you like to share an update?
Thank you, good evening. I don't have much to share because as you know, we've been in the dark since the 18th, but I don't know about Officer Brown's email, but I've been getting emails since Monday. So, like external emails that I can send and receive. So if you have sent an email, I did not get it because we anticipated, you know, that we'd open up our email one day and all of a sudden all these emails that we missed are going to flood, and we got none. So they're out there somewhere. So if you did try to communicate with me during that time, just resend it and hopefully I'll get it. So yeah, we're still dealing with that. Our internet issues, they're all still down, all that good stuff. So it's been good times. So I sent an email out, hopefully you received it, about the summer networking session at Columbus Museum of Arts for our commissioners. That is on the 22nd, on a Thursday, 6 to 7:30. Please register. It is limited to 50 people. First register, and then we'll have to cut it off, unfortunately, but definitely looking forward to that. I also brought with me tonight, and this is open for anyone, Neighborhoods Best Practices Conference is September 14th at Columbus State Community College, 9 a.m. to 12. There is a QR code here that you can go ahead and register for. I'll have these on me. I was kind of laying on this chair, so if you would like to have one.
Highly recommend.
Highly
recommend.
She's the best. I paid her to say that. So yes, so please go ahead and pick one up, and I truly invite everyone to come. Other than that, that is all I have for this evening. Unless anyone has any questions.
Thanks for reaching out when the email was down too, to make sure we all had your number and could get in touch. We appreciate that.
Oh yeah, so just my cell phone now. So yeah, my office phone is now down. So really, you can just get a hold of me through my cell phone. So it's great. It's great. So it's fine. But thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Any questions from commissioners? Any questions from the public for Department of Neighborhoods? Great. And I don't see Harrison. I don't think we have.
Harrison fractured his knee playing soccer.
Oh no.
So he's down, but he says it hurts.
Okay. Please tell me. Hope he feels better soon. And I don't think we have city attorney's office here tonight either. So we will go ahead and move on to Chair Dahl with an elections committee update.
Good evening, everybody. 3 people have been certified as petition candidates for the 2024
2024 election. Hannah Van Peeken for District 4, Brittany Bolton for District 5, and Michael Wyman for District 7. No other party submitted packets, so it's not a case where we had to reject or even disqualify anybody because of issues with signatures or anything like that. Total of 3 votes. The potential write-in candidate deadline is tomorrow at 5 p.m. And pursuant to Section 4D of the election rules, if there's only one candidate for a single district, which is the case across all 3 districts so far, and there are no write-in candidates for that district, the commission shall declare the candidate the winner of the election and cancel that portion of the election. So if we don't get any write-in candidates by tomorrow who are certified, we'll just declare those 3 parties the winners, districts 4, 5, and 7 for 2024. But if we do have an election, it's Saturday, August 24th, 10 to 2, and early voting Tuesday, August 20th, 6 to 8. Any questions?
Thank you so much, and please thank the elections committee for their time as well. Next, we have a presentation from Amy Blank with Cat Welfare Association.
It's actually both of us.
Oh, I apologize. Could you state your name for a minute?
Jay Matthew.
Jay Matthew, thank you so much for being here this evening. And did you need to put anything on the screen, or just, you don't need to?
Oh, I just brought you.
That's great. That's okay. Yeah, of course. And just to kind of set the stage for everyone, they are not up for a zoning request this month, but they're coming with an informal presentation around their project before they come before the committee next month.
That's absolutely correct. This is Jay, he's the president of our board of directors. And so we were just going to tell you a little bit, if you didn't already know, about cat welfare. We're always happy to promote.
Well, we're part of Clintonville.
Oh, absolutely.
We have been for over 70 years.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to come in here. We need a variance, but that's
yeah.
next one. And we thank you for allowing us, putting us on the agenda tonight. We really appreciate that. We have experienced growth issues. And for the last 7 years, we've been taking donations, trying to find some way to build at our current location, which is on 741 Wetmore, or find a new location. We believe we found a location. It's on East North Broadway. And that's about all since we haven't gotten anything signed or any paperwork, we can't really speak much about it, but we need to get the variance through. But anyway, we are very happy to be able to do this because it doubles our square footage. We'll get just under 11,000 square feet now. We also are going to have at least 50 parking spots, where today we have 18.
Yeah.
And
if you've ever been, you know parking's an issue.
So that's a thorn in our side. If anybody has any questions, I don't know if your normal procedure, you can ask them now, or we will hang around afterwards and answer any questions.
Are the 18 usually pretty full? Is parking an issue in your current location?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that includes employees,
Okay.
as well as
Employees,
people
yeah,
coming to adopt. It's a whole 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we've got 2 handicapped. So.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what really draws us to the neighborhood, it is on East North Broadway, is that it is quiet, it's peaceful. It is next to a residential neighborhood, and we want to assure them that we love the peace and quiet there as much as they do. That it's beautiful, it's got greenery and mature trees, and we think it'll be a perfect fit. And just because it came up once, I wanted to assure everyone that as much as we love dogs, and we do, they are not part of our mission, so they will never be held there. And I know some people have been worried about barking or possibly, and unfortunately that's just not ever going to be the case. So I do have some handouts if anybody wants to know more about cat welfare or finds the need for a cat in their life. We are always here for
We're
you.
in the business.
We are in that business. Sure.
what are the hours? So if somebody comes and wants to visit and potentially adopt a cat, what are the hours that would be open on the Broadway location?
Good.
Okay. It is, right now, it's 11 to 3:30, 7 days a week, except for Wednesdays, we're open until 7. So we do have some evening hours. They are pretty short, but we do have staff there 12 hours every day, usually 7 to almost 7. So there are people there, but we're only open to the public for little bits. And we might extend to as late as 5 or maybe an hour or 2 more on the weekends, but it's not going to be that busy. And I just wanted to add that for the zoning we're going for, it's zoned for an animal hospital. So we're close. We're almost there.
Because we have medical facilities.
Because we do have medical on site for all of our cats and for the intake, but just not for the housing of cats. So that's why we have to go for the variance.
Yes, sir.
When you've got a full house for cats, how many is that?
Oh, good question.
We're authorized by our square footage for, I think, 225,
For 225,
but we have more than that, which is why we've got to find a room. We've got to grow.
we do have to grow, but if you are wondering about standards, there are, like a university, there are 2 universities in the United States, not to get too in depth, but that do set standards for what a shelter has to have, what we can do, what we shouldn't do, and we do follow those. So we're not at a risk of just piling in a bunch of cats. And part of that is keeping them as healthy as possible. Whenever we can keep numbers down, the cats are less stressed and more likely to be healthy.
And the community, I'll just use Franklin County as an example. There are over 500,000 strays. They're either feral cats that were born there and have never been, or as people move, they open the door, they'll take their dogs with them and turn the cats loose. And then there's just ones that get lost, that dart out the door. So this is a big problem. We have a lot of concerned people that always are finding cats, trying to bring them to a shelter, us or one of the other facilities in Franklin County. We just don't have room. And it bothers me that we have to turn people away.
And that's why I don't know if everybody knows, but if I can just brag on cat welfare a little bit more, is that the shelter is just part of our programs. So we are more than just a shelter. Our biggest #1 program is subsidized spay neuters for cats. And we also have another, some people might lose their cats because they can't afford to pay the exorbitant vet costs that we are all faced with. And we have another program that keeps those animals in their homes and helps them pay for the vet costs. But again, our largest program is our spay neuter program.
And we operate all of our income comes from donations.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we try to be a good citizen. We do everything we can to do that. Our primary focus is helping the cats. So I say if you haven't been there, stop by. We're open from 11 to 3 every day.
Yeah, 11 to 3:30, and we always ask that people come visit. We need that. Cats get depressed, and we want people to come visit and pet cats. That really helps.
We actually have a group of volunteers who do nothing but socialize the cats.
Is there an age limit for visiting? I know my 5-year-old really wanted to go to the Bubble Tea Cafe, and you have to be 6. Just
Oh.
PSA for anybody else with a kindergartner that wants a cat. So she would love to go.
We just ask that the parents
Take care of the
just
kids.
take care, just be like not.
We've only adopted out 2 kids.
But yeah, just the parents stay with the kids.
So St. Moses, when I take them, they can watch the room.
Yeah, exactly. And if anybody else wants to know, we do have just started a youth volunteer program there for, it's my program. And, for 11-year-olds and up. And we do like programs,
successfully complete everything, they get a cat.
Yeah, that's what we tell all the parents. When they're done, you get a cat.
Yeah.
Just waffle.
Let's start somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all the important work you do in the community. Are there questions from the public? I know commissioners asked a couple questions.
I'm sorry, I promise I can go and keep my mouth shut. I'm 34. Every single cat that I've ever had growing up or as an adult has come from cat welfare. Amazing people, amazing place. Oh, never had a dud. So they have good cats, and they'll match you with someone that has your similar personality. And if you want to add a cat to your family, they're just extremely knowledgeable.
We believe, thank you very much, we believe that the cats are going to choose you.
Yeah.
So you need to come in and make yourself available to the cats, and they will become available. And they all come with a 30-day health guarantee,
True. Yeah, we do guarantee that.
and they're microchipped, and they're spayed or neutered.
Is it okay that I approach you?
It's okay.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, okay.
We're very approachable.
Informal neighborhood body.
Sorry, this is just a little old, but I have a few newsletters and some.
This is newsletters, this one,
This is
Oh,
last
that's
month, we don't
last.
have, did you want this one?
yeah, because this month, or this issue, we do it every 2 months. Just came out today electronically. So we will get the mail out probably sometime next week. Hasn't come back from the printer.
Well, feel free to reach out if you have any questions as you start navigating the zoning process. And thanks for being so proactive and coming to chat with us before the whole thing starts.
We've got a big job, and we're trying to get ahead on everything.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, and I think the Link Us folks have a presentation they're going to hook up, so we'll just be here for a moment while we pivot our tech. If you would like to speak to this, like some shrimp first, the boxes.
It's both. One way to far away.
It might make us get outside.
Or you-
Switch from the video.
I was wondering since
We're supposed to have
sound.
Okay,
But
It's on the other world, we give it a big old nice one.
Wi-Fi is really strong.
So that one's good, but there's no Oh, okay, maybe I'm thinking of a different one then. There's one, hopefully, I usually don't go on these presentations, so I don't know. Okay, yeah, the first one definitely goes down.
do you have enough space on my?
I'm okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Hello, Clintonville Area Commission. You have to forgive me, I'm in a chatty mood tonight. My name is Jasmine Ayers. I am a North Linden Area Commission, so I live on East Dunedin. But I come over here for lots of things. Dandy bikes, get my bikes fixed. I just had Catalina's this morning, so. Big fan, glad you are able to have us. We're gonna talk today about Link Us, which is a super exciting initiative, right? So this is the city of Columbus, the county, Warpsey, Coda, other municipalities, including some of the suburbs, like everybody in the county having a conversation about what transportation and safety needs to look like over the next 30 years. And so my crew is gonna get into the details, but again, thank you. Shelby's up first.
Alright, so, I'm Shelby Oldred. I'm an associate planner with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, or WORPC as we're more commonly known. details and context about what this great initiative is. So this really boils down to more CODA, more sidewalks, and more opportunity. So LinkUs is an initiative that will bring better, faster, more reliable transit, expand our network of safe pedestrian and bike network, and bring more opportunity to Central Ohio. We really want to invest in the kind of infrastructure that's going to connect people to opportunity, connect them to better housing, more jobs, more amenities, more services. So this is just a quick video. Hopefully we do have audio. That kind of really gets to why this is so important.
As a small business owner, I hope people can see the value of this. CAC Meeting is a workforce development project. We do a lot with barrier removal. We were very cognizant of having the resources in place to contribute to people's success. Assisting people with transportation was in that bucket list. Out of 30 staff, maybe 5 people have a vehicle. Everybody else is on the bus line. My mom, she had 2 girls, and she had me when she was 14. At the time, we were getting by on like $293 a month. Never had a car really, or it seemed like when we did have a car, it was always like a very stressful source of elatement when we got the vehicle, and then the vehicle would get repossessed. I never left my neighborhood as a child. And if I would have had access to transportation, maybe I couldn't find a job in my neighborhood. Maybe I could have found a job in a different suburb or a different area. So it wasn't until I went to another neighborhood that I realized, oh, people live different. It allowed me to kind of dream. LinkUs is going to connect the city in a way that is not currently connected. There are people who would benefit from having that access and potentially change their life.
So this initiative is something that we're asking everyone to have a say in. We want you to tell us what you think, and it's going to be on the ballot in November. The CODA board voted for this to be a ballot initiative, and I'm going to get into the details a little bit on what they're actually asking. But first, why now? Why this levy? Why is it important? So Central Ohio is growing very rapidly. We expect that we're going to have another 1 million people in our region by 2050. And that means we really have to rethink a lot about the way that we are growing, about the way that we get around Columbus and the surrounding area. We kind of can't keep going with the status quo if we're going to have so many new neighbors. Housing is another really important issue here in Central Ohio. I'm sure a lot of people know this already, but housing prices have gone up a lot since 2020, and we are actually experiencing a housing shortage here. And opportunity is pretty uneven in Franklin County. There are a lot of areas where people have great access to transportation and housing and jobs and healthcare, but a lot of the county also lives in an area where they have low opportunity. That's defined by this index, and so there's a third of our residents that live in areas of persistent poverty and these opportunity gaps. And that has a lot to do with the way that we have invested historically in our region. We have invested a lot in the kind of infrastructure that means people can only really get around using a car. And there's 40,000 residents in this county that don't have a vehicle. That means that they're blocked off from a lot of the opportunities that the rest of us have.
So I used to work at Huckleberry House. It's a youth shelter, and we had young people that opted to live in their car, even if we could get them housing, because the car was the most important thing, and that was the thing that they needed to be able to afford. Because if their costs went up, they couldn't afford the car and the apartment, and then they couldn't get to work. So this is going to be really helpful for a lot of folks that are struggling.
So this levy would benefit everybody in the CODA service area, and that is all of Franklin County, and then little pieces of some of the surrounding counties, Union, Delaware, Licking, and Fairfield. That's actual funding look like? What is the actual ask here? Overall, between now and 2050, this levy would generate over $8 billion in revenue. About $6 billion of that would come from the sales tax. It would be a half-cent sales tax that would be added to the existing half-cent sales tax. And we'd be able to leverage that funding to get even more funding. Currently, we're not really eligible for a lot of federal funding and state funding because we don't have the local dollars to put back into that. Federal funding requires a match. So local funds have to put a little bit of money in to be able to get a lot of federal money. And right now, we're not really able to do that. This would put us on par with our peers in Cincinnati and Cleveland for the amount of investment that they put into their transit. So we really would be playing catch up still, but it would put us at the level of investment that others in the region are putting into transit.
Cincinnati is at 0.8% and Cleveland is at 1%. So really, we're just trying to be on par with our sister cities, which are smaller than us in Ohio.
And this would also be, so it's a sales tax, so this wouldn't be a property tax, and people who are visiting the region would also be paying, if they're at a bar or going to a game or something for an Ohio State game or whatever, they would be paying sales tax that would also benefit our transit.
Just, I'm a homeowner, taxes are killing me, but this is at least gonna be shared with other people.
So one of the first big components of the three I mentioned before, more CODA, more sidewalks, more opportunity, and then what that more sidewalks piece look like. So over a quarter of that new sales tax, that new half-cent sales tax, would be invested specifically in sidewalks and trails. So it would generate about $60 billion a year on average. That's what our estimates are right now. And we are looking at building out over 500 miles of sidewalks and trails by 2050. So I also need to give you guys an updated slide here because we also have a link for the first 5 years of what that's going to look like. So for the first 5 years, we are looking at building over 150 miles. So by 2030, there are going to be 150 miles of new sidewalks and trails. So when we're talking about the crisis in pedestrian and cyclist safety that we're having right now, this is what we can do to help combat that, to help provide people with safe ways to get around the city by walking or biking. There's a lot of projects around the whole region, and you can dive into a map and look at what's proposed in the areas. If you go to morpc.org, so morpc.org/4sidewalks, I will make sure that you get that link after this meeting. But one of the big projects that we're really, really excited about that this could fund and that it's included in those 83 projects and 150 miles is the Living Green Line. It's a 7-mile long trail that would utilize an abandoned rail corridor in Linden. It would connect over 130,000 residents to the Living Green Line, and they would have access to over 3,000 businesses, 19 schools, 4 community centers, and 10 parks. This really would be a transformational project. It's really hard to overstate how much access this would give people to resources in their community, but also to the transit that is in that area. There's a CMAX line as well as lots of standard lines in that area. So this would be a completely transformative project. And this is just one of the 83 projects that is proposed in the first 5 years of WICUS.
And a green line, it's not just a trail with trees, it's like a park that moves. It's big, it's wide, it's for everybody. There's gonna be people selling fresh fruit on the side, or there's gonna be vendors. It's gonna be a really comprehensive, sort of inclusive neighborhood project. And I know you all have been on Cleveland Avenue, the super highway, so getting north-south on a bike through some of these neighborhoods is tough.
It's very scary, but
I have to comment on it too. So as a service planner at CODA, we hear a lot from customers too. So right now, this greenway or this abandoned railway is a barrier in the neighborhood. I mean, it's difficult to cross. It's not public land. And I have a customer who contacted us who rides CMAX to work and works just on the other side of this. It should be a 5-minute walk. His walk is 30 minutes because he has to go around it. So I feel like this is these things. It's like we don't think about this amount of time that this can save people and the quality of life. So I'm excited about that.
So there's other pieces thinking about more opportunity for our community. Like I was talking about earlier, and again, I'm sure you all know this, housing prices are We have about a 200,000 unit shortage right now. So we are underbuilding, and this is as we're expecting more people to move into our region. So we really have to change the way we think about housing and the way we think about development to make sure that we have enough opportunity and enough housing for people. So what Link House is looking at doing is creating something called an equitable transit-oriented development action plan. Planners use so much jargon, I'm sorry. ETOD, or equitable transit-oriented development, is really just thinking about how we can make sure that we are developing closer to transit so people have access to all that opportunity. So people have their housing, jobs, services, and amenities all within walking, biking, and transit distance of each other. And it's about preserving what we already have and want to keep, while also building in a way that benefits everybody else, or everybody in our region. So there's going to be an action plan that's coming out, I believe it's the first week of September that is planned right now, that will kind of create a toolkit for our communities to put in policies and actions that will improve equity and opportunity for everybody in the area.
All right, so thank you for that. So again, my name is Andrew Nutzling. I'm a service planner at CODA, and I'm going to speak a little bit more about more of the details of what Link House will provide. So first overview slide here, this is kind of a longer vision goal for what we want to get out of this. So of course, the goal is 45% more service, and that means our existing traditional bus service, 8 new CODA Plus zones, or up to 8 new CODA Plus zones, which if you aren't familiar with that, that's a newer service that we run. You can kind of see these 3 gray blobs on the map here. It's a van service that you order on demand with an app within certain zones, and it takes you basically door to door between where you're going. So we currently have 3 zones: South Side, Westerville, and River City. We want to have up to 8 around the city. 14 new and improved traditional bus lines, and 5 new rapid transit lines. So on the next slide, we get into a little bit more detail for what's coming up first. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. So, I didn't know there was this. I didn't realize there was this animation.
Those darker, the darker ones are the ones that are the new and improved, like the 14 improved and new lines, and then those blue lines are the proposed transit, the rapid transit.
Those are the first 3 proposed transit lines. So, and then the green ones were the later ones. All right. So, and apologies, I never put this in presentation mode, so I didn't. Okay, so, but first we have to start somewhere. So by 23, we're looking at those 3 rapid transit lines. They were the East Main, West Broad, and Northwest Corridor. We're also looking at 45% increase in service hours. That's traditional route, the rapid transit, and CODA Plus. And then of course those 500 plus miles of sidewalks and some roadway improvements.
And the increase in CODA services is also for like hospitals that people work at 24 hours a day. Right now, you can maybe get a bus at 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And thinking about the airports, just places where people work 24 hours a day and trying to provide them with more service so that they can get back and forth.
We're proposing a 24-hour network. It won't be the entire network, but we've identified some lines that we want to make 24/7. But I believe this video will share a little bit more about that rapid transit feature. So the first lines are going to...
Before we hit play, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you want to check and see maybe if there's a speaker setting that switches to the HDMI?
Yes, if you have
this one might not have sound.
knowledge.
Oh,
We're not speaking.
Is this one with sound, or is it
Not super certain.
Because there's one that does have sound, one that
How to
doesn't.
do things. Like my sound is turned up.
yeah, your sound is turned out, but like the source.
Could
That's what
folks
I'm wondering.
hear the last one and or see the subtitles?
All of these videos are also on the Link House YouTube page, so we can share links to those, and there's like a whole host of other videos to watch that are really informative about this initiative, so we can contribute videos as well.
Are you, is it going out to Delaware?
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh,
In like the Polaris area?
So we have service to the Polaris area now. So these first 3 quarters are not, but there is a north quarter that's identified for like a future project.
Alright, let's see.
Yeah,
so this is just another image of what a BRT station might look like in Columbus. This is more of a site-specific Columbus type of design. Again, you can see some of those features, the raised platform for more level boarding. It's easier and safer to board. There's an enhanced station area, dedicated lanes. Overall, this will make the service faster, more pleasant to use, and hopefully a lot more popular.
My favorite feature is heated concrete, so that the snow melts and you're not slipping and sliding trying to get on the bus.
And I think my favorite feature may be awkward fare collection, as someone who sometimes watches people pay with nickels as they as they enter the bus. So it'll be great. But here's a more detailed view of East Main Corridor. So this will run from downtown Columbus out to Reynoldsburg, mostly in dedicated right-of-way with centered boarding stations like the one you just saw. And I mean, we can give you a shot of the next one too, the Broad Corridor. So West Broad, similar deal, centered running from downtown Columbus out to Westgate, and then mixed traffic out past the casino and Doctor's Hospital area.
Quick question, why can't that be center running west of there too? Broad Street's so wide out there.
That's a great question. So a lot of it depends on negotiations with local governments and ODOT. So particularly at 270, that's an ODOT issue. But increased advocacy is always a good idea. So. And finally, Northwest, that's the most relevant to this part of town. This one's the furthest out at this point. But from downtown Columbus, taking Olentangy River Road out to Bethel, and then eventually over to Dublin. A lot of the region's jobs are in this corridor, and then this corridor in particular, it has a lot of development around it, but also a lot of development potential. So a lot of the other corridors we've identified are historic transit-oriented corridors, where maybe it's more of a revitalization. This is like definitely going to attract new development to this corridor.
And one of the proposed projects for the sidewalks and trails that would be built in the first 5 years would connect to this BRT. I think the BRT is a tiny bit further out than 2030 for construction, but it would be a shared use path on North Broadway that would go out to Kenny and would connect to the Olentangy Trail. So there would be a shared use path that could be used by cyclists and pedestrians.
And just some regional case studies for BRT success. If you ever go visit Cleveland, you can visit the Cleveland Helpline BRT. This one was a great success and one of the first high quality BRT lines in the country. And just look at some of these numbers. It's attracted a lot of development and investment in the neighborhoods it was along, and created a lot of jobs and housing units along the corridor. Another great example, Minneapolis. This is another pier that we love to cite. Their rapid transit projects since 2009 have been created $16 billion of investment. And I love the second point here too. So 37% of all regional development was targeted on 3% of land. If you value open space and green space around Columbus, that's a really important point. And then also attracted 52,000 new housing units. So with next steps, I almost want to hand it to Jasmine for next steps if you're up for it.
All right, so next steps for us, right, is continued engagement. We're hitting all of the area commissions. We're trying to do all the civic associations. So if you have a group that gets together, that watches Sylvester Stallone movies once a week, and you want us to come talk, please go to linkus.com and you can make a request for us to come out. And we're just continuing to study, continuing to advocate, continuing to try to bring our federal tax dollars back to Columbus. And I would ask whether you like it, don't like it, or somewhere in the middle, if you could text the Link Us link to 3 people, just so you can start a conversation with folks, we would really appreciate that. We want folks talking about this and getting excited.
And I'll make sure that you get that link for the plan for the first 5 years of sidewalks and trails. We have a public comment period open, I think through August 23rd, just opened last week. So it's board seat outward / sidewalks, but I'll make sure that gets out to you. It explains, it shows all those projects, and I want to hear from you if we're like
CODA building sidewalks, not the city?
So
When did that become the responsibility of CODA?
it is still the local government's responsibility to build sidewalks, but a really common thing, from my experience as a planner at CODA, we'll get comments like the one I mentioned earlier, where we'll have to add service to a new neighborhood, or maybe a neighborhood that's existed for 70 years, that doesn't have sidewalks. And there's just a huge backlog, frankly. And I'll talk to the city and I'll say, please build a sidewalk here, and they'll say, we don't have money. We have to put a bus stop anyways. It's an unaccessible bus stop, no sidewalk, no connection to anything, and there's just frankly not enough funding for it. So 94% of our customers are pedestrian, or they're accessing the stop using sidewalks for walking. So it's a huge benefit to CODA for these communities to have money to build sidewalks. So,
But also, CODA is the only mechanism by state law that we can get this money with, right? So like, the money has to come through CODA, and then it will get distributed to the people that can actually work in their sort of expertise, but just state law, this is how you have to go about it.
maybe to clarify, cities and local governments will apply for the funding, and then it'll be distributed to them, and then they'll go to the sidewalks. So.
I'm sorry, who's building the sidewalks in CODA or
The
the local?
local
municipality.
governments, and then CODA is providing funding for it.
So CODA gives the money to Columbus based on this rate, the money they raise from this levy. Because most of the money's being raised from the levy, right? It's not really a
So,
state
yeah,
fund.
the money for sidewalks and trails would come from the levy only, but it would also allow local governments to leverage those funds, just like I talked about earlier, how, having, these tax dollars would allow us to, leverage money, for more federal funds. It's the same thing with, bike and pedestrian projects. If Columbus or Dublin, or whomever is able to show, oh, we're getting, this money through this initiative, they are also able to access more federal funds, because they have to have a local match. So it counts as a local match, and we'll be able to stretch, the local dollars a lot further and build a lot more projects in a lot less time.
Does that answer your question?
Well, it's an answer. It's not one that I like to hear because it sounds like bigger government, another agency.
There's nothing new being created. There's no new agencies being created. So
Yeah, no new agency, but new responsibilities for the agency.
Maybe the
CODA's doing more now than what they were doing in the past with these bikeways and things like that. Now they're a clearinghouse for tax dollars to these local governments that they didn't do before. So, you know, it sounds like bigger government to me.
Yeah, I think about it as like the county agency. So the county commissioners get the money, they distribute it to the Department of Aging, and then they also distribute that money and give grants to local nonprofits that are doing good work. Same thing.
That's their responsibility.
Maybe we can
CODA's
talk to the-
responsibility is really sidewalks.
They're
not building
They will not be managing the contracts. They will be the ones that receive the funds, but the contracts will still be managed by the local agencies that are responsible for implementing the projects, which is how this already works. Morpsey provides a lot of, federal funding, well, some state funding, so it basically will just be another source of funds. And all of the local agencies are really used to the way this works already. So the local agencies are the ones that are in charge of implementing the projects, and it really isn't like a.
Well, the local agencies could raise this money themselves with their own levies and bond issues, right?
Theoretically, but realistically, no. Without this fund, without these funds, most of these projects will never be built.
I have a couple questions. So currently, let's say the corner of Oakland Park and Indianola, there's a CODA bus stop there. There's weeds that are about 3 feet tall. So I've gotten calls on that this week from people. So is that a CODA thing? Is that a city thing? Who am I to call to take care of maintenance on the sidewalk?
On the sidewalk? So
Yeah.
the sidewalk is usually the property owner's responsibility.
Okay.
So, we don't own the sidewalks, we just get a permit to place a shelter there, if that makes sense. So it should
23rd on like the sidewalks and the bikeways and all that, do you have like a graphic that shows what this bikeway looks like on Broadway to Kenny?
So most of these are not that far into like design. They're mostly conceptual at this point because there's no source of funding for it. Until Linkhouse would be the thing that would fund these. So most of them don't have like renderings or design that are really that far along.
So earlier in the meeting, Brittany had a note from the city saying that there's gonna be a bikeway on Broadway in 2026. So it sounds like there's funding. So
That's
The
a
city
different
has
portion of Broadway.
the city has already planned things, so there's things in the city's capital budget that are projects that are multi-year projects that was already set.
So that's not a project that you guys are doing?
Yeah, that sounds. That sounded like it was from East Broadway, right? Was that the?
But if you're talking about Broadway to Kenny, that's
West.
West North Broadway. But
Yeah.
I still feel as though
It was,
you were talking about coming and meeting
It's the
with
bike path, you know.
groups. I think you need to meet with the North Broadway Street Association to talk about
Broadway.
East North Broadway and West North Broadway over to Kenny. I think would be a good idea.
What was the name of North Broadway?
North Broadway Street Association. You can contact me and I can get in touch with those people.
any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah. It's so weird you mention that, but there's like 2 Sylvester Stallone movie clubs tonight. It's freaky. The High Street Lincoln North one is like, I don't know, 4th on the list or something. I always thought that it was weird because that's the highest density neighborhood in Columbus, and is that really no, why wouldn't that be one of the first or second ones to go?
That does make sense. That is the highest density corridor. It's not necessarily going to be High Street. Also, it could be a different corridor. But I think part of it is just our community doesn't have this type of doesn't have a rapid transit line yet. So part of it, I mean, the other 2 corridors are also dense corridors, and they're frankly just easier to get and prove the concept. So we do believe that oftentimes when you build these projects, once they're built, it becomes very popular. So we think it will be politically easier. And that's my honest answer.
So what do you think? Do you think North High Street would be a rail or under?
I cannot.
You don't want to speculate?
Well, yeah, there also will be an alternatives analysis. So each of these have a mode analysis, and it may depend on which corridor it is. So.
In the meantime, can we increase bus frequency on 4 too?
On
Routes
line 4?
4
Oh, on line
2.
4. Yeah, so the 2 is 15 minutes, the 4 is 30 right now. I do know that they used to have, the 4 especially had more, that's my bus line, it used to have more rush hours.
Yeah.
We are working towards increasing frequency, so CODA is hiring right now. During the pandemic, we basically lost a lot of staff, and then people didn't want to work in public transit during the pandemic. So we're still recovering from that, and we're adding service right now, and we hope to continue doing that and adding beyond with Nikas, of course.
If anybody you know is looking for a job, the union just signed a new contract, and it's good.
Yeah, more frequency on High Street would definitely make me a bus rider, so. Thanks.
Great. Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from the public? Yeah, please.
So one time to address something that you had said, CODA already handles pass-through funds for the Delaware Area Transit Authority to the tune of something like $4 million per year. They receive that money from the vet and then pass that money on to Delaware Area Transit Authority. So as far as developing additional accounting capacity to support this, you probably limit the existing capacity that CODA already has for redistributing funds. But my question was, can you speak? I'm from the North Linden Area Commission. I live in North Linden. I love the Linden Green Line, but we are here in Clintonville, and so in addition to the bus rapid transit line on the other side of the river and the new bike expansions, can you speak more to what sort of transit improvements Clintonville will see?
Will you mind sharing your name for the minutes?
Yeah, I'm Ben Keith. I'm the zoning committee chair for the North Linden Area Commission.
Thank you. I recognize you by your members. Thank you.
So it will be a work in progress, and we'll do continuous public input. So I want to start with that. if and when Lincoln passes, we're gonna just continue to ask the public what they wanna do with the funds. But I'll say for sure, that 24-hour network that we mentioned earlier, the line 2, that's one of our most popular corridors, and it will definitely be on the 24-hour transit network. So, and then also, of course, increased frequency. So we want to have service beyond what we had before the pandemic. So if you remember, before the pandemic, the line 4 it came every 15 minutes on rush hours. It was more frequent on weekends too, and we want to build beyond what we had before. So because this is a well-established neighborhood that does have some pretty good bus lines, to your point, a lot of it will just be adding frequency, if that answers your question.
I think there was a slide in here that said 45% increase in service hours. Do you know what the specific number is and how service hours are being counted? Like do the Coda Plus zones count towards those service hours?
You know, I believe that they do, but I also believe that there's some flexibility in that. So if we, for example, actually there's always flexibility. So say a Coda Plus zone in Westerville, this is something that happens sometimes with those on-demand zones. There emerges a pattern where there's a very clear bus line, and then eventually becomes a bus line, if that makes sense. So we are saying 8, but if something becomes so popular that it needs to be upgraded to a bus, that's what we do. So, which I don't know if that's too in the weeds, but that's.
But is that 45% increase in service hours, is that only for fixed route buses, or does that also include the Coda Plus?
I believe it includes both, but I should probably confirm that for you. So if you'd like me to, I can take your card or something. Oh, I think I might have. Okay.
Would that like increase like the North Broadway bus that heads over to Riverside?
Yep.
So you can grab that and go over there to the Northwest Corridor?
Yep, and especially as these corridors get developed out, we will be reconsidering the local route network to feed into them.
Yeah.
So a great example, the line 1 currently uses a lot of the alignment that the 110G, the Northwest Corridor, would use. So we would probably try to reallocate those hours to feed into it. And there is a need for crosstown service now, which we don't have. So I think that would give me an opportunity to both reallocate those hours, and then of course, because we'll have more hours, we can also like put the new investment into.
Any other, yeah, please, Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah Van Huyken. I just have 2 questions. The first might kind of overlap with what you're asking about, Commissioner Latta. With the passing of Zone In and the Northwest Corridor that you guys showed, I think it's that one, the one up Olentangy. How does those 2 relate? Because I understand that one of the objectives here is to increase access to housing and so forth, which is what Zone In does, and yet those 2 corridors aren't one and the same right now on the 2 maps between these 2 huge city projects.
I will say density and transit just go together really well. So the zoning corridors, a lot of them are reducing or eliminating parking requirements, and if you're not driving there, you could be taking the bus there. So I think they go together. I'll also say Zone N is the first phase of it, and I think they're going to be looking at more areas of the city. The land use folks here in this room probably may know more about it than even I do, but
yeah.
I do say they do support each other, but I mean they're separate.
Well, I guess, sorry, maybe I wasn't articulate enough. Like, I'm curious, like, I think this may be what you were asking too, but like, why is the Northwest Corridor going up Olentangy and not High Street, where that's where Zone In is? And these, to your point, totally agree. Like, they seem so complementary. It seems like about a mile miss.
Yeah.
So
we can direct this to the city of Columbus and get a little more specific answer for you. But there are proposed, like the part of Olentangy and Bethel Road, where it's going to go up Olentangy to Bethel. There are significant portions of Olentangy and Bethel that are included in the zone initiative. So
where the Coles is that stretch
yeah.
on Olentangy, that's also within the zone.
Yeah, that whole stretch is included there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then my other question was just around electric bikes or e-bikes, and kind of how are those being, and I guess scooters, you know, any like electric vehicle that's not a car, maybe even golf carts are included in this, but like those kind of like middle of the ground vehicles where right now it doesn't feel like there's a real clear
pathway for them, because like either you're seeing them, you know, on the roads, or you're more often than not, anecdotally, seeing them on pedestrian ways, which if safety is another huge objective here, just curious, like, does governance of those types of vehicles fall within this project? And if so, how are they being addressed?
So, governance of it is not, like part of this project, but I can speak to a little bit of that at least. So all of the trails, like, all of the projects are from locally proposed plans. Morpsey is the entity that has worked with all of the regional partners to determine which projects are going to be included in these first 5 years, and we will continue to do that going forward. And it's been a really like collaborative effort, but where all of that started is with local governments and talking to their own, you know, their own communities. So with Columbus, I hope you have heard about the Bike Plus initiative. Maybe they've been here to talk to you a little bit about that, but they have been including scooters and like e-bikes as part of that planning. So that's going to be reflected in a lot of the projects that they will be proposing in the future. This planning initiative has been sort of happening at the same time, so only a little bit of that is reflected in these first few projects that are from the city of Columbus, but they are thinking about scooters and e-bikes in the projects that they are proposing. And as far as like scooters and stuff on pedestrian ways, that's most of these projects that are up here are shared use paths where scooters and e-bikes are allowed. And then they're much wider paths, kind of like the Old Tangent Trail. We would consider that a shared use path. And the Old Tangent Trail actually is a pretty narrow path. Some of them we're building wider than that these days, but where pedestrians and cyclists can share the trail, so it's not like a 5-foot sidewalk with an e-bike rolling down it.
Yeah, and creating these safe spaces to ride a bike or micromobility device is how you get them off the sidewalks. So if there is a safe place to ride it, people will be less likely to be on the pedestrian space. And then I also want to mention for the BRT specifically, we are including funding for bike parking, and some of them have funding for what we're calling micro-mobility hubs, so places for things like e-bikes and scooters to be. So I think we have some information about them on the Link Us website if you want to see some images.
But I would say continue to advocate, because
that's how all of these projects end up here in the first place.
I will send this out to try to get like a more concrete answer for you, but I would just stay on.
Just a follow-up question, with Bike Plus, so does this fund Bike Plus?
So it's not like a direct, like, oh, if Link Us passes, then 100% of Bike Plus gets funded. That's not how that will work, but all of these projects come from local governments in the first place. We met with all of their planners and engineers and, you know, local officials and stuff to have these conversations. And where they're pulling this from is mostly from these local plans like Bike Plus. So Bike Plus, this will be a funding mechanism for Bike Plus. They'll still build other projects outside of this. So if you're seeing this map and you're like, oh no, this thing I really care about is not on here, that doesn't mean Columbus isn't going to do it. This could just be one of the funding mechanisms to make that happen, and it provides a new way to do it, so it could happen a lot faster.
And important to note, these are the projects that they're identifying early. So, but this is going to continue. So it'll be important to stay engaged with this and advocate for your project and make sure you get submitted, because after this first 5 years, there will be other money from other projects. So we'll just, like, the public needs to stay involved to get good projects like us.
Mr. Herbert has a question too.
I guess 3 quick questions. First of all, I'd like to know, I'd also like to know how much of that 45% goes to people who aren't lucky enough to live on those very selective corridors, and just how much regular bus service you're going to provide out of that 45%. Because I could see at all 40% of it being used up with the Uber service you have and the BRT and leaving nothing left. But you already promised to try to get that out. Secondly, if we are dissatisfied with how you do the first 5 years, is this permanent, or do you have to come out? Do you have to ask for the money again?
Do you mean the
1%, the full 1%?
Do you mean?
But let's say we don't. Let's say we think you tell us you need to participate for 5 years, and if you don't like it, you need to advocate for your project. What if we say, we don't like the way you've done for that 5 years, are we stuck with that 1% forever?
So this is a continuing, so it is a renewing one, but I will say that the city of Columbus appoints half of CODA's board. So, you can get involved with that process as well. This levy is not the only way to, it's not the only lever of power over CODA, I suppose, so.
I guess the last question is, will there be any technological improvements on regular lines? If I gotta tell you, your GPS system is incredibly unreliable, which makes things like if you wanna take the Crosstown 31, and you say it runs every half an hour to an hour, depending on the day. I wanna know, did I just miss it, or is it coming in 5 minutes? No way to know, because your GPS, I can't tell whether it almost never works, or whether it just never looks whenever I've checked it. And then other lines, if I ride my bike to your bus, the bus thinks I'm the bus. Transit turns me into the bus. So people see me as the bus and think that's where the bus is.
So, CODA this year, we're gonna be buying a new technology called Swiftly, and hopefully we'll solve that real-time issue. But I guess just stay tuned. I'd say when in doubt, check the timetable, because the buses are reasonably good at staying on the timetable, so.
What was the name of that technology you said?
It's called Swiftly.
Can you spell that?
SWIFTLY.
Okay.
Any more questions from the public? Commissioner Wyman?
So this is a permanent levy?
Yes. We already have a permanent, we have a permanent quarter cent and a renewable quarter cent.
Thank you so much for the very thorough presentation and for answering our questions.
Really appreciate it. There's stickers over there.
Before we pivot to public comment and adjourn, Chair Harwood has a brief update from the zoning committee.
Yes, we have a rule that says that we can waive a rule with the chair's permission as long as we disclose it, and as long as it furthers the committee's mission. Because we weren't certain about the city's email system, we have a rule in place that requires applications to be emailed to me from the city before our process can even start. We thought, given the city's email problems, we didn't want people's timeliness to depend on the city's email working for this month. So with Chair Bolton's permission, we are waiving the rule that says they still have to file it. Just they can send me a copy instead of from the city doing it. The rules also say we have to disclose it at the next meeting so that there's nothing fishy going on in any meeting.
Any questions for the chair? Yeah.
Well, there's one small addition to the, we have people from Trulieve.
I apologize, that's right. I had the mental addition of Stephen, but thank you.
Andrew and Greg
We've got one more.
from Trulieve Cannabis Dispensary.
Welcome.
Yes.
Mr.
Thank
Grant.
you. And we'll just be speaking for a couple of minutes here. We'll actually be in front of the commission's zoning committee on August 28th and in front of this commission again on September 5th. So we just wanted to come in and say hello so we weren't taking you by surprise next time. Well, actually, it's a procedural issue. We'll be getting a special permit due to a change in law. So we'll have that, more details about that in our presentation in the future. But we thought it might make sense for Andrew to speak to you on behalf of Trulieve. It's an operating business already in District 1.
So my name is Andrew Bauer. I've been with Trulieve for 3 years. We're a cannabis dispensary or cannabis retailer. We're in about 12 states, have over 200 dispensaries. Our main state is Florida, where we have 143 stores right now. We really just wanted to be here today. Cannabis is still a hot topic. People have questions on it, they're scared of it, they're curious about it. So we just wanted to be here today. We'll stay after. I'll give you guys my card if anybody wants to come visit the dispensary. Right now it is medical only, but we're happy to give tours. Have to go through certain steps to get you in, but that's okay. And just to kind of destigmatize what cannabis is and here for questions. Happy to answer anything you guys have.
What was their location? You said District 1.
It's
Crestview High.
2950.
Crestview High, okay.
Yes.
Great. Wonderful. Any questions from commissioners?
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Lost weekend records right next door to you. They've had issues where your customers like fill up his lot. He has signage all over it that just says, parking records are only. You can't control where your customers park, I understand that. But I'm wondering if there's some kind of way you can make an outreach to your customers to say, hey, next time, don't park over there.
100%, yeah, I'll get with the store manager on that. That location, it's an amazing location with horrible parking.
That's the neighborhood.
And so I know they try their best to keep everything contained, but I think I want to say they only have 4 dedicated spots, and that could be.
Oh, just encourage people to park on High Street or on the side streets rather than taking up someone's lot. So.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And I also know that you can't control it.
We can ask.
Just, a little outreach.
Yep.
Thanks.
Commissioner Wyman.
Will you be increasing your security measures now that you're gonna have more of a retail presence?
We kind of take it case by case, store by store. One thing that we do have, we have 24/7 live monitored security cameras that they call it the JSOC in Florida. So there is somebody always watching, every door, secured access, everything like that. But as of right now, there's no plan to have like a third-party security or anything like that. I will say, without disclosing anything, they do increase like cash pickups and things like that with increased revenue. So there's less on hand.
Yeah, and what we can say is that the state has very significant requirements for security for them that they put in place with medical, with adult use coming online.
Comes right along with it.
It would stay at that same high standard of security.
I would imagine over time, it won't be any different than a liquor store, really.
With better products.
But
yes.
I have an opinion on that.
Well, I will say one thing with cannabis, a counterpoint.
It's new right now.
Yeah, but one thing, so I'm from Arizona, we've had recreational for 3 years now, medical since 2012. A liquor store, you can go in, you can browse, touch stuff, put it in your pocket, maybe not put it in your pocket, maybe pay, maybe not. At dispensaries, everyone that I've ever been to or know of is a legal operator. You can go to Black Market One. You walk in, you have to give your ID to get into the dispensary and verify. Okay, you go before, and then you talk to a dispensary agent before they hand you your product. That dispensary agent checks your ID again. So there is a level of security and safety that is different from a liquor store that allows that. Helps with diversion. Somebody walking together, somebody sneaking behind me. They're still not going to get product. Where at a vape shop or a liquor store, there's just not that age verification. And because of the state requirements, it is such a high priority to us that nobody underage or not supposed to get it acquires the product, because we will lose our license, and it's a $20-ish million license. And so it is a priority number 1, and that is one differentiating factor between us and a liquor store for sure.
Excellent.
Any other questions from commissioners? Any questions from the public for Julie? Well, thank you so much
Awesome.
for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Request.
We'll
see you.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you. Any other items from commissioners this evening? Any comments from the public? Yeah. Hi, Columbia Gas.
Hi, I'm gonna be quick because I know everyone is ready to go home, and that is great. So the only updates that I have is really gonna be from last month. As you guys know, we have not started that HDD drilling. It will happen. Before it happens, I will tell you. So just be on the lookout for that. As you stated, we were approved for the city council for the variances for both of the properties, so yay for us. And as you know, still, a lot of the things you already know, so I'm just kind of going over it. The asbestos environmental remediation is almost complete. And so we're looking at the demo for that first property at 204 to happen in the next couple of weeks. And from that demo, 3 weeks later, we'll do the second property. And that truly is all I have for you guys today. It's really nothing new, but I'm always here to support you and hear you and
commissioners or from the public? Thanks, we appreciate you being here. Oh, Commissioner Riley.
Sorry, I just was curious, do we need to do more on what Chair Hargit was just asking for?
No.
Okay.
It was just a note of public notification.
I was just gonna say, thank you for repaving the Summit Street bike lane after you did all the work on all the gas line work.
Did it just for you.
Wonderful. Any more public comment this evening? Great. Is there a motion to adjourn?